Welcome to the iSoftpull Main Course Podcast, where we get straight to the point, the meat and potatoes. Now let's dig in.
All right, welcome to the iSoftpull Main Course Podcast, where we're going to be talking to Cameron Abbott of Compass here in Del Mar. He's a real estate agent and a successful producer over the past massive years here in San Diego. And we're going to be diving into his relationships with his loan officers that he deals with over the past years, and what he likes about the relationships, what he doesn't like about the relationships, and we're going to dig right in. So Cameron, 2 weeks ago, you asked me, you're like, hey, Dan, do you have any loan officers here in San Diego that do soft credit checks? And I gave you a couple loan officers that I had. What spawned that? Why did that happen?
Well, that came from a buyer that was tired of getting hard pulls. He had called me a little disgruntled with his current lender. Things weren't working out the way he wanted them to work out, which is understandable in this market, right? We're seeing, 24 offers on single family properties.
Was he a buyer?
He was a buyer. Yep. So he had just mentioned casually in a long conversation that he was tired of getting these hard pull dings on his credit report. And I immediately thought of you. Yeah. And how you've kind of shared with me and really expressed how good what you guys are doing here is and how beneficial it can be. So I called you, got me set up, right, with a couple different lending options, and I called around to those, had some conversations, and ended up setting them up with one of those lenders. Yeah.
So in your field, what attracts you about a loan officer? Or I should back up. Do you only work with one loan officer? How do you find your loan officers? Tell me about your relationship with loan officers in general.
Sure. So my relationship with loan officers is a mixed bag, right? Like, just like the consuming public to my profession, there's very stiff competition. So we don't suffer fools, right? My clients, if I drop the ball, there's 10 agents right behind me to take my place. So I've certainly gone through a couple that, had a great talk game, but ran up against some challenges and we move on, right? So really what I care about, namely, is transparency as to a specific buyer's ability, and communication is huge.
With you or with the client?
Both.
So you like to engage with the loan officers because you're doing 25, 30 deals a year.
Sure.
Right?
Yep.
So you're probably dealing with, if you have 25, 30 deals a year that actually close. So I'm
20
times that in leads.
Yes. Yep.
Right?
So yes. So the communication aspect of that with specifically between a lender and a prospective buyer is paramount, because I like to do my lenders a favor and not speak for them, right? I've seen that with less experienced agents who will consult buyers on financing, and that rarely goes well when they actually get in front of a mortgage professional that knows exactly what's happening.
Because you're the expert in the real estate.
I'm the real estate guy. I'm the negotiation guy. I'm the protect your interest guy.
Right.
I'm not the finance expert.
So when you talk to a loan officer and a guy's maybe listening to get some referrals from you, I'm sure you probably run into loan officers all the time that want referrals. What's a turnoff? Besides saying, hey, you got any referrals for me? Right? Besides that.
I might actually respect that if that happens.
If they just hit you straight up.
Hey, give me some buyers. That might actually turn my head a little bit. What turns me off primarily is, like in any sales profession, right, is somebody who you can blatantly tell is either chasing a dollar or disingenuous, right? Somebody who's more interested in grabbing all of it and then letting people fall by the wayside. Sure. So well, I'm sure you've heard the saying, right? The fortune's in the follow-up, right? So I'm a big systems guy. I'm systems. I've got support staff that handles the systems and the finer details because I'm not great at them. My strength is in relationships. My strength is in contract knowledge. But if those systems aren't in place, then a lender's not going to execute, right? They're gonna run themselves ragged.
And I'm sure some of these are buyers we're talking about here. They're not ready to go right now. They might come to you, Cam, I'm going to buy a house this summer.
Sure.
Right?
That's most of them.
That's most of them, right? It's not like I want to buy this week. What do you got?
Yep.
Right?
Yeah.
So do you make the introduction to the loan officer right away? How does that relationship work?
So I do. Yes.
And why do you do that?
Well, primarily for what I had just mentioned is I'm not the finance guy, right? So I don't want to steer a buyer in one direction as far as preparedness, right? Because a lot of buyers will come to you and say, well, I've got all this credit card debt. I've got to get that down to zero. If I was to give them that advice and then they go and talk, so they're stressing about that, they go and talk to a lender who says, just get your DTI, your debt to income ratio below 30%. And that's gonna kick up your credit score. That's going to make you much more or open up much more attractive interest rates. You don't need to pay everything off, right? So I like to get buyers in front of a loan officer immediately. My father was a broker, right? Top 1% in the nation for Prudential before it was Berkshire Hathaway. And trained me extensively for the better part of a decade. And one of the things he always said was relevant buyers and sellers take relevant steps towards buying and selling, right? So for me, you come to me and you say, Cam, I'm ready. I want to buy a house. And I say, Dan, great. Here's my lender. And you're dragging your feet getting qualified. Well, then you're not taking the relevant steps, right? Because in my business, it's solely results driven, right? The only thing that I can protect is my time and how to best use it, right? So if we're getting in front of folks that aren't willing to be vetted with a lender, then they're not willing to take all the necessary steps to actually purchase a property.
And one of those steps, I assume, I know that you're not the lender, is they need to look at the credit report of the buyer, right? And so this is where the iSoftpull comes in. Maybe what you were asking me before is, I need a solution to have the lender appropriately look at the credit report and identify if this prospect is qualified. But maybe they're not. Every time the prospect does that, they have to do a tri-merge.
Sure.
And that might have been the experience
that
your buyer had,
correct,
right?
Yeah.
So that's to let you guys know, that's what we're talking about here, and that's the solution that the iSoftpull solves, is it allows the lender to look at the credit report, get the credit score, get the debt to income ratio, and look at all the underlying trade lines without having to run a tri-merge. And Cam, one of Cam's prospects ran afoul of that, is when every time that they were going to go down the road, they just wanted to do a tri-merge. So they'd shop different lenders, and every different lender wanted to do a tri-merge right away. And they're not even ready, right? So they would get 5 or 6 different inquiries before they're actually going to buy when they talk to lender after lender after lender. So tell me a little bit, how do you meet loan officers? And is there anything that a loan officer, technology-wise, has provided for you or helped you with your path? And not just soft credit checks, just generally speaking.
Sure,
right?
yeah. So I straddle a generation that's very comfortable on the phone or text or social media or in person, right? So a lot of my contacts I've had for a long time, right? These guys are
the loan officers.
The loan officers are guys and gals that are proven closers, right? But I've come by way of them by time in the industry, by referral, and by networking, right? And the ones that I keep around are typically going to be communicative, both with me and any lead I sent them. What that brings to mind particularly is one lender who I had passed a prospect to 24 months ago, easy. They ended up moving out of state. 18 months later, we hadn't talked about this couple at all, and I get an email from the lender to the buyers who had stayed in touch with him.
The lender and the borrower.
The borrower had, or what I would call a buyer, right? The borrower stayed in touch with the lender that entire time, and come to find that this particular lender's follow-up always included some sort of praise of me or my team.
Sure.
So anything that went to the borrower said, if any of this sounds interesting, you think you're ready to pull the trigger, give Cam a call. Right. And so now we're 24 months later, and we close them on a very nice home here in San Diego from somebody who I had just assumed was out of state and gone.
And not a deal anymore.
Yep.
Right.
Yep, exactly. So that type of thing for me is paramount, really. Like guys that are in this and gals that are in this for the long haul and able to communicate well with buyers of all types.
Sure. From your experience, I know locally here, there's a lot of, let's call them flash in the pan realtors. Sure. They just get a license, right? And does that happen in the loan officer world too? Have you talked to guys that, it might not happen as much, but you're looking for a guy who's a career guy or gal. That's a staple. This is what they do.
Yep. Yeah, and I'm certain there's parallels, right? In any sales business, if the tchotchke market gets hot, you're gonna see a lot of tchotchke sellers come in.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And when the tchotchke market cools down,
you're going
they go do on to the next thing, and God bless them. With that said, yes. I've known many lenders who cut their teeth on live fish, and good for them. I like to see a track record, right?
Before you send them buyers.
Exactly.
Right?
Yep.
So I want to shift into, I've talked to you over the past couple of weeks. One of your initiatives in 2022 is really scaling your business.
Yeah.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
Kim's been doing this a long time here in San Diego, and he's looking to go, from doing 25, 30 deals a year to significantly more than that. And part of that process is going to be naturally processing more leads. So instead of running, let's say, 200, 300 leads a year to do 20 houses, you're going to be doing 1,000 leads a year, right? So I imagine not everybody's going to be qualified.
Of course.
Right?
Yeah.
So how do you currently, let's call them pre-qualified, not get pre-approved like
sure.
A lender would, but how do you qualify your leads and now?
So it's a two-phase. Me being the relationship guy, right? I'm going to have that initial conversation. I'm going to ask some underlying qualifying questions. And if they pass muster there, they're going to then go on to a lender.
Right.
And that's where the pre-approval comes in, right? So that's in the traditional way, it can take 24 to 48 hours to get that back if that prospective client is right on top of it, gets this lender everything right away. And it's a lot of work. So let's just say if I'm qualifying, 30 people a month, active buyers or people that believe themselves to be active buyers, 3 of them shaking out is a good number.
Right.
10%.
So
yeah, I mean that's a great
that's a great number.
When I'm tracking after lead gen stuff, we're looking at 1% to 3% conversion rates. So that's a lot of work for my lenders. It just is, right? Because I don't have a way to see on paper that this buyer is operating in the realm of reality, right?
And it's a lot of work for your staff.
It's
too,
a bunch.
right?
Yep.
You got a whole team.
Yep.
Right. So if you're going to be scaling your company, you're going to need technology to really find out. Okay, I assume that they got to be willing and able, right? They got to have the want, but they got to be able. They got to have the purchasing power in order to do that. And your professional career is really tied to lending, unless you have a cash buyer, right?
Correct.
Which is predicated on income and credit, right? So I can see how there's this prerequisite that, all right, I got this prospect and I need to get them to a lender to get pre-approved. But you need to know, if I'm going to scale my business, I'm going to be processing 10 times more leads, particularly if they're not referrals, right? If they're online driven leads, right? Is this person qualified? And so I think that's a good segue. I'm gonna show you. We've been talking about it the last 6 months.
Yeah.
The app that we built for lenders to give you a tool,
Right.
to show you whether or not they're qualified.
Love it.
And any lenders out there that are listening right now, or loan officers or brokers, what this is going to do for you is, if you give this tool to Cameron's going to be able to find out whether or not his customer's qualified. He's naturally going to be sending you the lead, right? So lenders and brokers who adopt this technology are going to get more referrals from real estate agents, because we've established that he needs to know whether or not they're qualified, and he wants to do it fast. So that's what I'm going to show you now. So let's open up the laptop and let's dive in. All right, so when we log in here, and this is the iSoftpull dashboard, there's what's called intelligence and forms. And as a background, what this product allows you to do is check your customer's credit using their name and address only, but you can give a widget or a frame to a realtor so he can submit deals through, right? So what we're going to do is we're first going to create our intelligence, because you need to know, is this guy a 780?
Sure.
Is this guy a 700, or is this guy a 550? Right. So let's assume we set up 3 tiers of people.
Perfect.
Premium, maybe conventional. This guy's on the edge of an FHA in 6 months, right? If
It needs some credit repair.
right? And needs time, not ready to do the deal now. You don't want to throw it away, because they might be wanting to do it in 6 months, but they're not ready yet. But you need to know that now, because you're going to process 1,000 leads this year, and you can't wait on everybody. You got to
and we'll be processing
much more than that.
Much more than that, and having a tool that can get these guys at least into our, move them up the ladder a little bit.
That's right.
Yeah.
Kind of identify and systematically, let's call it prioritizing the leads.
Yeah.
Right? All right, so we've set up these intelligence engines here. And then what we're going to do is we're going to create a form, right? And this particular form is, we're going to build this form for Cameron. So this is a lender using this tool.
Sure.
So they're going to create this form. They're going to name it Abbott Realtor, right? Sure. Or whatever they're naming it internally. So they're going to edit the text in here. So it's going to be, get pre-qualified for a home loan, referral partner of Cameron Abbott.
Yeah.
Whatever the headline is here, right? Put in a description, tell them a little bit what it's about, only have the name and address, then we're going to save it. So now the loan officer can then send this link right here, Cameron, to you.
Perfect.
So you have access to this link. So what happens now is, let's assume that you're talking to a lead, right? And you want to know whether or not that lead is qualified. So now you email this link here to your client. Let's get to this link. Okay. So this is embedded either on your site, on the lender's site. or you could just email it to them in a link.
Sure.
And it's dedicated for you. So the lender knows that anytime this is filled out, this is from Cameron Abbott. Right?
Sure.
So let's assume that now your prospect fills this out, right? They put in their name and address. It's a soft credit check, won't hurt their score. When they press submit, it's going to pull their credit and let them know either A, congratulations, you've been pre-qualified.
That's great. Yeah. Quick.
Right away. Or alternatively, it might say something like, thank you for your submission. Unfortunately, we weren't able to match you with any loan types. And if you're sitting with the lead or talking to him, you're going to understand what this means.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to understand that if it's a congratulations, you've been pre-qualified, that means that they have a 780 and that they have an estimated income. We have an income product from TransUnion that estimates the income based on their payment history, their revolving accounts, and all their years of data. Just like a FICO score is modeled on an ability to repay a new debt, the income estimator pretty much accurately predicts what their joint or individual income would be.
Sure.
So you layer those two together, and now you can tell instantly whether or not your client is qualified, and at the same time, the loan officer got the lead.
Right. Yeah.
Right? So it's kind of and that's it. That's the whole deal, right?
Let me ask you something on this, though.
Sure.
So you had said name and address.
Right.
What about a kid who sold a bunch of NFTs,
Right.
but he still lives with mom and dad?
Right.
You need a social?
It's a good question. How do you do it with name and address? Is there time that you need a social?
Yeah.
Right. So a social security number is the most unique identifier to an individual, right? There's only one social security number for every person in the United States. So if you got the social, you'd get a hit 100%. But there's other ways to identify people besides the social. And what the bureaus have found is that they can 80% of the time identify somebody with just their name and their address. Like there hasn't been 2 Cameron Abbotts that are living at your house.
Right.
Just you, right?
Yep.
And you have credit cards that are reporting to your credit report. So your address is on your credit report. Right. So that's how the bureaus identify somebody with just a name and an address only. Now let's assume that your dad's name was Cameron Abbott and you guys live together and Cameron Abbott is selling NFTs. Right? That's the situation.
Someday.
Right? Yeah. I guess crypto's old school now. Is that for the old dogs? Crypto's gone, right?
It's gone.
It's NFTs now. So in the event that there's a junior and a senior living at the same house with the same name, then we would need a date of birth or a social.
Okay.
The other
a date of birth would be far less intrusive than...
That's right.
And I'm speaking to, specifically about the internet lead that comes in.
That has no rapport with you.
Right. It's a little off-putting to be asked for your social security number within 10 minutes of having a...
I need to do it. How about this one? I need to do a tri-merge.
Right.
I need your social security. I need your W-2. I need your bank accounts.
Yeah.
Right away.
Saliva sample.
Yeah. So if there's a junior, senior, or the other times that it comes up, this is why it's 80, 90%, is if they give you the correct name, there's only one of them, but the address they give you is like their new rental property.
Right.
And it's not on their credit report.
Sure.
So the underlying situation when we can identify them is so long as there's a unique name and address, and that unique name and address is on their credit report, we can do it with just a name and address only. Otherwise, we would need a social security number or date of birth.
Yep.
So do you think, this is the first time I think I've showed you this. You've seen some of our other versions.
It is. That's great.
I know we're buddies here and all, but is this a tool that you would use because you're going to try to scale here, right?
So this is something I would love to set my my assistant up with.
Right.
You know, when these prospective buyers come in, you know, and more than that, I think it is something that my lenders would love to set.
Right. And I think the lender, self-interested, would want to give it to you
Yeah,
because you're going to send them deals.
exactly.
Right.
And
In order
they get
to
them
know,
anyway,
yeah.
right? It pings them anyway that a poll's been operated under that widget.
Well, so it's either going to be you're going to see. We've already established that you have a couple lenders that you like. So you're only going to do it with somebody that has a long-term track record, closes deals, and is service-driven. But let's say you have two of them, right? Mm-hmm. One of them will let you know instantly whether or not your client pre-qualifies. The other one, I need to do a tri-merge. I need to do the whole dog and pony show, and I'll get back to you. Yep. Right? You're probably going to send it to the lender.
Initial discovery is definitely going to go to the lender that allows me to operate a soft pull.
Right. And so some lenders come to us and they just want to save money on tri-merges because they'd rather. Let's get down to it. So how much does this cost? So each credit pull is only $3.
Right.
So one of the fears that a lender has is, well, man, they're going to be sending me so many leads and they're used to paying $30 per tri-merge. In this instance, it is going to cost the lender $3 every time you send them a lead. Sure. But I'm sure they would be happy to pay the $3 for a warm lead and get their credit report.
Right.
Right. Yeah, so I think that's the new benefit that we're rolling out this month is the Realtor tool to allow loan officers to give their realtors a tool so realtors can find out on the fly whether or not their customers pre-qualify. And at scale, right? Because we're not talking about doing 5 deals a month.
Right.
Or processing 5 leads a month. We can handle that. But for the realtors that are really trying to scale and save time and prioritize their lives, I think this tool's for them.
I think it's great. Yeah, absolutely do.
So, all right, well, I think we got right into we call it the main course, right, podcast, the meat and potatoes. We try to dive right into it and just go right into the substance of the conversation so we don't have to hear 20 minutes of how you met, how your mom met your dad and everything like that. Where'd you go to school, right? But if you could just take a couple minutes and tell us a little bit about you, your practice, and maybe if there's any home buyers here in San Diego looking for a good realtor that could get the deal done. Why Cameron Abbott? Let's close with that.
Well, my mom and dad met at Vaughn's.
Okay.
So why Cameron Abbott? Why not?
Why not?
Why not?
Why ask why?
Why?
But dry.
Yeah. Well, like you've mentioned a couple times, I've been doing this a while. I do come from a family of brokers, developers, builders. I'm a 5th generation San Diegan. Everybody before me has been in the real estate world in some way. So I grew up around it. I know it well. And might not be a popular opinion. I don't particularly care about houses. I like them. I like living in one. I like providing my family a safe place, but it could be tchotchkes. I care about service, and I care about leaving people better than I found them, right? It just so happens that the way my mind works and my upbringing, it brought about this opportunity, right? So I've taken it, I've run with it, and really pride myself on being an informational resource for both buyers and sellers. I'm about a 70-30 on the listing side, 30% buyer side.
Mostly listings.
Mostly listings.
But the people that sell, they end up having to buy.
Exactly.
Right?
Yep, exactly. So to that, I like keeping I'm all in on real estate. Right, so
it's not a side deal.
I'm up to snuff on laws, and really it's my job, especially in such a litigious state like California, to inoculate my clients from risk. Right, that's where a good realtor is gonna earn their bread and butter. Is gonna be knowing the nuances of contracts, knowing how to negotiate well, knowing how to protect your client's interest, and really being able to navigate the difficulties. Like I tell clients, right, that if nothing surprises me in a real estate transaction, I'd be surprised. There's always something. Something always comes up. And you know, the importance of having a level-headed, kind of quick thinking, creative problem-solving type is pretty important in this business.
Yeah, it's more than just selling a widget, right?
Well, it's not. It is a sales business. It's a numbers game. It's a volume game. It's a sales business. But I'm not going to sell you a $3 million house. You're gonna like it or you're not gonna like it. Right. I'm not gonna, you know,
convince you to buy.
I'm not gonna get you to walk off the lot with it the day we go see it. Right. Like, it's not gonna happen. It's my job to showcase my competence and my trustworthiness. Right. Like we were talking about earlier, like you can smell if somebody's chasing a dollar. I haven't needed something to close in a very long time, right? So I'm here.
And that gives you leverage.
It does.
In the negotiation, I assume.
It absolutely does. And you know, as far as that's concerned, you know, I'm a certified negotiation expert, right? So this is through the National Association of Realtors. I've done extensive training on kind of the psychology behind motivators for getting people to both move forward on a property or walk away from them, because sometimes that's in a client's best interest. Right.
And tell me about this market here. We're 2022 January here in San Diego. We were talking about a listing you just had. You listed it for something, and then you had 20 offers the same day.
Yeah. So yeah, we just put one on, and this isn't unique to me right now, right? So we just brought one on in Rancho Penasquitos 92129. A nicely done 3-bedroom, 2-bath property. Brought it active, had showings on Saturday and Sunday through open houses. I hosted the one on Saturday.
Saw it on Facebook.
Probably 150 plus people came through. We ended up with 24 offers, going for roughly $250. We're going into escrow after this, so
really?
For roughly $250 over asking. And again, that's not unique to my situation.
That's
here,
what the market's doing right now. But being able to navigate those waters and have experience, you can't just go into that the first time sledding and cutting your teeth in this market.
We'll get a pro, right? Like whether it's me or somebody else, like just get a proven, established realtor that's going to take care of you and hold your interest above their own, right? Pretty simple.
Well, great. Well, I think that concludes the episode 2 of the Main Course podcast here at iSoftpull. Thanks for joining us, and I look forward to the next episode. Cheers.